Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you've all navigated the wonders of virtual technology and been joining us this morning. We do apologize for the little bit of technical issues we had with the office hours this morning, but I think we managed to make it all work, and we can talk about rescheduling those if we need to, if you missed something later in the day. But welcome to the state CLG coordinator training. We are happy to have you. We have a large group, probably larger than if we would have had this in person. It's a little different planning this virtually, but hopefully we'll all get something good out of it, and still kind of keep our kind of casual question answer back and forth kind of way that we're used to doing when we're in person. We've of course missed the social aspects of it, but still. So we're going to be meeting all day today and all day tomorrow. Thank you for those on the East Coast that are staying a little later so that we can accommodate those on the West Coast with the timing. And we're going to have a series of different types of meetings, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I love the slide, so I thought this might get us going in a good way, and you can all pick which one you think you are. Unfortunately, I think I fall under the what I really do, which is the pushing paper part. So anyway, I just wanted to start with a little bit of humor, hopefully, so we get this thing going. First, I just wanted to introduce our team. I'm the chief of the state tribal local grant plans and grants division that we call Steelpig, and we do embrace the pig part. And I'm also the acting CLG coordinator. So you guys have been stuck with me for a long time in that role, and are unfortunately still stuck with me a little bit. So our new deputy associate director, which I'm not sure all of you have gotten a chance to meet, she's been on board about a year now, is Serena Bellew. She comes to us with some SHPO experience from both Pennsylvania and Georgia, as well as a lot of good 106 experience that she had when she was at DOD. So we're excited to have her, and she's been a big supporter of the CLG program, and we hope that will continue. So I just wanted y'all to be aware of kind of that change. We also just received news that Joy Beasley, who's been serving as our acting associate director for partnership and science, was finally made permanent last week. So she is now serving in a permanent capacity. So you may be seeing more of her as things go forward. I want to just real quickly let the CLG team kind of introduce themselves. David's going to join us more by video later in the day. But Dara, do you want to kick off and tell us how long you've been here and what you've been working on?
Hello, everyone. I am the new program assistant here at Steelpig, and I have been here just over 3 months, just getting started, and I'm excited to be here at this meeting and actually meet everyone that we're working with.
We are happy to have Dara on board. I am actually. Most of you met David Banks in some form or fashion. He's our preservation planner in the office, and he's been helping out quite a bit on your certification, decertification processes. He's definitely going to speak.
Oh, hi. As everyone has pointed out, I'm David Banks, and I'm the preservation planner. You may have met me through your plan because I have found a number of CLG coordinators being responsible for getting the plan done. I've also been the one that you've been talking to when you send in asking for concurrence on certifications and decertifications. And just so you know, since I'm relatively new to reviewing these certifications, because the last time I did this was 1984 and 1985. I'm the original author of Chapter 9. So if there's any bad stuff, you can just blame me. And that's about it. I'll be in dealing with everyone at one point or another over the next year or so. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Sorry, I didn't realize you were in there, and it looks like I got dumped off and managed to jump back on. So, we're having a great morning. Johnny, do you want to talk next?
Yeah, so I'm Johnny Heitch. I am the American Conservation Experience Fellow for the CLG program. So yeah, you've probably been getting a few emails from me regarding kind of this whole training and slash meeting. So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions and assist in any way throughout this whole throughout these whole 2 days.
And John?
Well, as you can all see, we have a nice balance of fresh minds and experienced minds. For those of you that I've met before, it's a pleasure to see and be with you again. And for those of you that I haven't met, it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I have worked for the Park Service for over 42 years. My background is in history and law. I been involved with the Historic Preservation Laws book, with the regulations that implement the National Historic Preservation Act, with the grants manual, a little bit of everything related to policy. And I've been involved in various degrees with the CLG program since it got established. So most policy issues, especially as it relates to interpreting statute and regulation and policy, have come across my desk from one way or another. So it'll be a pleasure to share what I know and to improve what we do by hearing from all of you. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And you all probably know me, so I guess I've realized that this month will be 17 years with the Park Service, so that's a little bit frightening. But started as a grant manager, moved to CLG coordinator, and Hampton decided to go on to greener pastures, I guess, and so I became chief. It's now about 4 years ago. So, but we have a great team, and I'm going to go over the staffing situation with y'all a little bit today, but we will meet the staff this afternoon. They can introduce themselves just because of our webinar format. It's a little easier to do that later in a meeting format. And then also we will meet all of you. And I know we have a lot of new CLG coordinators out there. So looking forward to meeting all of you if we haven't met in person, and getting to know you throughout this training. We do have available for questions in the Q&A. If you have anything immediate, we will also have a lot of opportunity throughout the training for y'all to ask questions verbally as well. So don't think this is your only chance. We make sure you have plenty of access. Okay, so just wanted to go over some logistics, housekeeping. We will be providing you some handouts. You've got a couple within the bulletin that got sent out, and I do apologize if that didn't all reach you like it should have. We're trying to use technology, and it's not always our friend with our constant contact system. So hopefully you've all gotten something, and maybe too many emails from me at this point. But we will be sending out some handouts. We're going to send out some handouts about the different grant programs prior to the office hours tomorrow, which will give you a chance to talk to each of the program leads in our office about the different grant programs. Given our difficulty with Zoom this morning, we will be sending out new links, and those will be in Teams. So if you haven't downloaded the Teams app, you might want to think about doing that at some point today, and then be able to join those hopefully right at 10 o'clock. And if there are any of the sessions this morning that you think need more time, let us know in the Q&A. And we will see if we can schedule some of those individuals to be available tomorrow morning again. So hopefully that was a good way to kind of ask some questions of the other programs. And we wouldn't normally have access to all those programs if we were there in person. So, so look for handouts as needed, coming through email. The two formats that we're using is kind of a webinar format and a meeting format. So those have different kinds of restrictions on them in Zoom. The webinar formats are in presentation mode. So you as attendees, and that's what this is right now, will be muted. And the way to ask questions is through the Q&A, and we will have staff monitoring that question and answer section.
Megan, if you can hear us, you froze.
And I keep getting bumped off. Sorry about that. Let me share screen again.
And Megan, if you get bumped again, we'll have you just stop sharing your screen or stop sharing your video.
Maybe that's it. And the voice you are hearing is Sean, who is our technical advisor. And we're thankful he is here. There we go. Okay. We'll try this again. So I talked a little about the webinar format. The meeting formats, which is what we'll be using mostly in the afternoons, allow you to talk and have discussion, and attendees be able to speak. We can share comments through the Q&A as well. So don't think it's just going to be the Park Service talking at you the whole time. You know I'm not a fan of that. This is your meeting and we want it to definitely be that way. We do ask that if you're not a CLG coordinator for your state and that you're our office staff, if you would participate in listen only mode, so mute your video and your microphone. That way it gives, we have quite a few CLG coordinators, so we want to give them as much opportunity for discussion as we can. Our sessions will be recorded, so hopefully we can share them later. And you will notice that a few of your states are tagged in the agenda, so be prepared to speak about those topics. And if you asked one of the questions that we'll be talking about later in the afternoon, please be prepared to talk about that and why you asked the question. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Steelpig news and updates. Probably the thing you are interested in is the money. At this stage, we have released all of the state grants for 2020. Some of you were still in the process of getting grant agreements too, so just know that I'll talk about staffing issues later, but it's been a bit of a lift. So, but all state grants were released by August 31st. So you should be seeing that funding in your account. If not, for some reason, do let your grant manager know so that we can check on that. I had a quick conversation with budget office this morning to get some sense of expectations for fiscal year 21. We really haven't heard a lot about the budget. They don't have very long to pass it before October, so I'm going to be guessing a continuing resolution probably until January or so with the election. But I wanted you to be able to see the markups. In the first column, 2020 is what we received for funding, which was quite a step up for almost all of our programs. The second column is the 2021 request from the administration. And you can see several of the programs were zeroed out and reduced. And then fiscal year 2021, this is the House markup. We don't have the Senate markup yet, but just to give you an idea of kind of where those numbers are falling. And you will see there is a bump up, especially for the states and the tribes. And as part of that bumping up over the 50,000 with the apportionment formula, we did change some language in the grant manual for this year, increasing that $50,000 cutoff to go to tier 3 to 65 million. Sorry, 50 million, not 50,000. So just kind of be aware of that. We shouldn't be moving up into tier 3. So we'll be using the regular apportionment formula, and I'll talk more about the apportionment formula in a little bit. Okay, so kind of some other updates from us. As you all have probably heard us whining and complaining about moving into grant solutions. That is underway, and that is partly why our fiscal year ended for us a month early. So usually in September is when we're pushing to get all of the grants released, final programs, those types of things, before our financial system shut down for the end of the fiscal year. That actually happened. Our last day in our systems was August 31st, so this bumped us earlier. It was quite a push to get the states and tribes through, but we've been working on those. But we did have some delays in releasing the Paul Brown rural program, as well as the tribal heritage grants and Save America's Treasures until the very end. So I just want to thank my staff, all the Steelpig team, for doing a really Herculean effort to get those out before we got shut out of the system. So Just so you know, that's all behind the scenes. We try to make it look seamless, but that's what's going on. Our projected move into Grant Solutions is October 13th. We do have information on our website, and we'll make sure you get a link to that, as I forgot to put it in here. You will not really see much change during this downtime. You will still have access to ASAP. You will still have access to draw your funding. So none of that should affect you. When we go back up on the 13th, we really aren't sure what it's going to look like. We're in the midst of multiple trainings to try to understand it, but we really aren't in the system yet. They have told us that they will provide grantee training. I have a feeling we'll also probably provide some grantee training, but this is a system that should allow you to have more interaction with us. So you will actually be able to log into it as well, similar to the HPF Online, really. And some of you may have used it already for other federal grant programs. Things that will be available is to be able to fill out the SF425s within the system, make some budget changes, those types of things. And also, if you have one of our competitive grants, which many of you do, to be able to submit reporting and those types of things through the system. Grant Solutions will become our system of record, so it is a requirement that we use it. But I think we'll all be working on this together to figure it out. I don't know that we'll have full staff into the system until probably the end of October. So just be aware, that's what's coming. And we have some wonderful staff that have spent a week of training and well, let's just say we're hoping it works right. So, but it is made to manage grants, so we're hopeful that maybe it has some tools that we can use. It does not, for all of you, I know, take the place of grants.gov, which we will still continue to use for the application process. So don't get excited that that's going away, because I know you love dealing with it. So that's kind of the basics on that, and we can definitely answer questions about this throughout the day if you have any. So let's move on to the apportionment formula. So as all of you may or may not know, Chapter 2 of the HPF Grants Manual outlines the apportionment formula, and John Arnaud was quite active in orchestrating the formula that we have today. We have had the same formula in place for about 20 years now. So it is, and because it uses census data and we're still using year 2000 census data, we need to probably revisit. So this is actually a item within Joy Beasley, our associate director's performance plan and expectations for the plan for the Park Service, to look at the apportionment formula again, revisit it, see if there's anything that needs to be changed, improved, modified, and definitely update it with new census information. We are just beginning the process. We are we feel very strongly that the certified local governments should also be involved in this process. So it will be working with probably some of you to develop ideas through a task force situation, that kind of thing, as well as your state offices. So, but because the CLGs do get funding through this formula, we feel like that's an important piece that the CLGs be involved, which is a little bit different than we did it last time. We are excited to have Brian Conway coming on as an experienced, we call it an experienced worker program. Some of you may remember Brian. He's the former SHPO for Michigan and recently retired. He is going to come on as our project lead for this formula revamp. And I'm happy to have him because I know he's very familiar with the formula and how it works, and he brings that SHPO perspective. So you will probably be hearing from him. We will go through a process of doing a survey, setting up a task force, and then making recommendations to the department. We anticipate that this will take the full year. Going forward, Brian joins us next week, so he will be busy, and he will be learning all the past history from John Arnaud for sure to help us move forward. And our hope is to implement the new formula for 2022. Now, there are a lot of things that we have to accomplish in that time, but that's the current plan as we know it. So I wanted y'all to at least be briefed and kind of up to speed as to what was going on with that. Okay, Chapter 9, Revamp. You were all lucky to know that Johnny has agreed to continue as one of our ACE fellows. He's finished his NICP internship, I think this week actually, and is moving to our ACE, to the ACE program. And he is going to assist, as one of his projects is looking closely at Chapter 9 and what are those changes. And some of you old timers may remember that we did this in 2018 when I was still just the CLG coordinator. And you all provided some great comments. We are working on gathering those together, and we'll probably be doing another call for some more opportunity to comment, especially for those of you that weren't here in 2018. So I want you to just be aware that that's coming. If you have thoughts or suggestions, we'll certainly be taking notes on that throughout these 2 days of places that you see Chapter 9 might need some assistance, like some a little bit more, and maybe there's some places that are confusing or those types of things. And of course that may include some other places in the grants manual as well. If you haven't read Chapter 9 yet, I highly suggest it, because that is what governs the CLG program. And I should mention that I did have really good intentions of recording our new CLG coordinator webinar prior to this training, and I'm afraid that the end of the year got in the way. So we will be doing that and have that available for those of you that are new. And so we can go through kind of all the sub-grant process, project notifications, NHLs, those types of things. But we will be touching on some of that tomorrow afternoon. So just letting you know that that is in the works and we have not forgotten it, I promise. Other things that are kind of happening, we have made some updates to the HPF Online, including your ability to attach PDFs and Word documents to it. And you probably got, if you're actively in the system, or as SHPO or Deputy SHPO, got a notification from us about changing passwords. We've had the same passwords in the system for all the states since before I started at the Park Service, so I think they're 20 years old. And unfortunately, the IT gods finally found us, and because it is an external system, we do have to implement a more secure password activity. So you will, we're going to walk you through that. James is going to do that tomorrow. Dara is heavily involved in the process as well. So we'll show you what you need to do. This also hopefully enables you to have a few more people in the system. And if you have staff leave, it gives you some more security that we can remove them as users in the system. So I think it's good. We have made major updates to the disaster portion of the HPF Online, especially in the NEPA and the NHL sections. And our hope is to transfer those over to the annual state grants as well. But right now our developers are working on adding the Paul Brune Rural Revitalization Program in, so that you're able to, for those of you that have one of those grants, competitive grants, you're able to enter your projects in just as you would a project in the PADB for your annual grant. So our hope is to kind of make a little bit more robust tool that you can use for all those 3 different programs as needed. Dara, do you want to talk a little bit about the contact updates now, or just give a heads up as to what's coming, or would you rather wait till later?
Dara, you may be muted. While we're waiting on her, Megan, there's 2 questions.
Okay.
Paula Moore says, thanks for doing this training. Will you be doing a webinar on grant solutions this fall?
We likely will need to. They do offer some training that y'all should be able to sign up for, but I think we've watched one example of that, and we are likely going to have to do more so that you'll understand what's involved. So yes, I would expect to see some of that when we do the webinar for the end of year. And we might do some recorded training too, so you can watch it when you need to. But yes, it will be coming. As soon as we figure it out, then we can help you figure it out.
Great. And the second question is from Kristen Brown. The HPF updates with James, is that the 3 p.m. agenda item?
I think it will actually, we will do that tomorrow under the sub-grant portion. You'll know it's James when you see him.
That's all the questions for now. Dara, are you able to hear us?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that. I was trying to be quiet. But really simply, what we're working to do is just to update our contacts for the individual CLGs in your state. It's a lot to keep track of, as you well know, I'm sure. And we want to make sure that we have the most current information available.
So we will try to make that as easy on you as possible. And Dara is working on some spreadsheets and data dumps and things like that. So stay tuned. And we'll probably go over that a little bit more tomorrow, right, Dara?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on these topics? Did anyone put anything in?
Kristen, we'll confirm while the rest of the session is going on. She has an office intern, or sorry, an office person that would like to tune in just for James, but can't be on all day.
Okay. We can set a time that he'll be doing that, and we'll send that out. Not a problem. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about staffing updates. So we have a wonderful team of grant managers, and you have probably worked with several of them, either with your annual grant or with one of your competitive grants, if you have those. We do have some rather sad news is that Ginger Carter is leaving us at the end of the month. She's going to keep doing grants, but for USGS. That leaves a big hole. Ginger's been with us for 16 years. She's been my longest colleague I've ever had, so I'm going to miss her a lot. But she works very closely with the TIPO program, and as well as has been the lead for SAT this last year. We will be hopefully filling her position with the details, so you might see some new names coming up, and then hopefully filling it permanently. But we have a robust group otherwise. We are pleased that Marla Collum, who's the lead for our rural program, has recently moved from a term position into the permanent position that Josh Wilkes vacated last year. It's taken 17 months to fill that position, so you can see the frustration on my face. Yeah, that's a fake smile. So just know that we are trying our hardest to keep up, but this is a lot of grants. We recently calculated that we manage over about 1,000 active grants and $350 million. So this team works really hard, and I'm really proud of them, but we probably need a few more people. So just letting you know kind of where things stand. I will continue to serve as the agreements officer. We are making some changes within our structure, and some of those financial functions are going to move to our business office, but that won't be affecting Steelpig right away, except maybe in the TIPO program. Dara will continue to be our program assistant. We are trying to hire a second program assistant. Again, it's been a few months. And then if you haven't met already, Olivia Brunette is our compliance contractor. He works a lot on the NEPA program, and you may have heard from him with some questions. He is helping Jen Wellock, who is our technical reviewer and has a lot of things to review. So bear with us, but if you do have questions, those are the two contacts for that type of work. Our financial contractor, Maisha, some of you may have worked with her a little bit. She left us in August for a different contract. We are currently working on hiring another contractor, so we will be adding someone on in October in that position. And then, you know, as always, I know some of you are super familiar with us and talk to your grant managers directly. But if not, we always encourage you to send any questions to the main inbox, which is steelpig@nps.gov, or call the main line and leave a message. The reason we suggest that sometimes is because we do have a team of people that monitor that inbox every day. So if you get like someone's out of town or that type of thing, or you get an out of office message and you do need something quickly, we do encourage you to go ahead and contact that inbox and we can get back to you fairly quickly. So we try to turn that around. So just that as FYI. So just as kind of a refresher, and we will talk more about these tomorrow morning during the office hours, in addition to the annual funding that you get from us, we also have a lot of competitive grant programs. So we're now up to 7 of those. Our civil rights, and most of them have gotten increases pretty steadily each year. The new one that we will have for fiscal year 2021 is the History of Equal Rights. And that is a kind of a spinoff of our African American Civil Rights Program, in that of the line that was allocated to that funding, part of that civil rights funding goes to the Underrepresented Community Program, and then part of it goes to the History of All American Civil Rights. So it's $2.5 million. It'll just be for preservation projects, but this should address things like women's history, LGBTQ, Hispanic, tribal, all of those kind of, you know, the other civil rights struggles that this country has and maybe is continuing to have. So just kind of be aware of that. James will be talking about those 2 programs together tomorrow morning. So you might be interested in those. And of course, states are eligible to apply, as well as CLGs. Our HBCU program is still going strong. It's one of our oldest programs, actually. Jessica Kelly is our lead for that, if you haven't met her yet. And she's also going to be taking on some technical review with Jen. Our revitalization grants, our sub-grant program, you all are doing well applying for that. And Save America's Treasures continues on. And Tribal Heritage, which is our oldest competitive grant, Madeline Kahns is our lead for that as well. And then Underrepresented Communities. A lot of you have tapped into that to do survey and nominations, amending nominations, those types of things. So we hope you will continue. That program and Paul Brune are a little bit specifically targeted to SHPOs, TIPOs, and certified local governments. Paul Brune is also open to nonprofits, but it is kind of a limited application pool. So I do want y'all to be aware of that. And that can be something you hopefully can take advantage of to supplement your annual funding, which we know doesn't go as far as it used to. On the disaster front, unfortunately, we seem to keep having them, but we are this month closing out, the end of the year, closing out Hurricane Sandy that has run its course. But we are still actively involved in Harvey, Irma, Maria, and Florence, U2, and Michael, and those both received $50 million each. You know, I know that some of you are very affected by recent disasters, and just know that that appropriations process is very political. So if you're interested in having funding of that sort, definitely, it's not something the Park Service controls. So just to give you a heads up of kind of how that happens. But feel free to join us on office hours tomorrow morning. Again, we're going to send out Teams links for those. So don't use the links that we already sent out. And you can get more information and ask questions about specific projects, those types of things with the staff. And then we can also cover some of this information tomorrow and in our breakout if you like. And this is just a reminder, as we are now very digital, and I guess I probably should have said that at the beginning, is Steelpig is still working at home. We anticipate being at home probably for quite a bit. DC is, of course, has been a hot spot, and with public transportation, and we all share offices and things, the logistics of us going back to work are a little more complicated than some other places. So we will be handling everything digital. Don't don't email things to the office. We do try to go in, David's in there today, every once in a while and check the mail. But we've noticed it comes in strange chunks, like we just got some from May, those types of things. So please don't depend on the mail or FedEx or UPS to get anything to our office. Do try to email it. We do have access to an FTP site. If the files are large, we can send you a link for that, and that's pretty easy to do. And I say all that because as we wrap up for the end of the year reporting and for your sub-grants, you will have products that you want to share with us. We've set that up in a digital format for the last couple of years, but we definitely will want to use it this year. And I do want y'all to be able to take the time, hopefully at some point, and look in our Integrated Resource Management application system, IRMA, because that is where we've been actually uploading a lot of your good projects to share. Nothing with restricted data, I promise. But there's some really good resources in there. I think we have over 3,000 or 4,000 documents in that now. We're working to load the state plans in there, our annual reports in there, and some other things. So Caitlin White in our office is our records management fellow, and she's working closely with that side of the house. So you might hear from her when it comes to how do I send you my products, and she may respond to you with an FTP link and those types of things. So we can go over this a little bit more tomorrow when James joins us for the HPF Online. But just know that that is something we're still anticipating for the end of the year, especially that we will still be all digital at that point and probably stay that way. And I do think that's one of the advantages that Grant Solutions has is most everything you can report to us in HPF Online. However, we do have those certain forms that you have to email or mail or something like that. And hopefully Grant Solutions will help us handle some of that so it can be a purely digital process. Okay, I think I am done way early.
We had a couple other questions.
That I can
Yep.
ask.
All right, Meredith Massey asked, CLG contact updates, will that not be something that we include in the annual reporting?
So Meredith, I'm going to answer this two ways. The CLG contact, your individual CLGs, we do ask that you keep those maintained through the website, the CLG website. We do try to pull that mailing list, especially when we do grant announcements of new programs or funding be available, when the notices of funding comes out, and we do email to the CLGs. So we would like to try to keep that as up to date as we can. We realize that those change drastically all of the time. That doesn't necessarily have to come with your annual report. If you want to make that like a goal to have it updated, that would be great. But you can actively update those on the website, or what we hope is Zara's going to make available to y'all spreadsheets out of our database that you can either edit in the spreadsheet or pull new data and put it in that format, and then we will be able to dump that data into the database for you. So it'll be less data entry for you. So those are probably going to be two options. I'm going to also answer it in this way. If you're asking about the CLG annual reporting, that is something we've actually had on hold for, John, I think about 5 years now. It's just been beyond kind of our capacity to do it. So you are welcome to continue to do the annual report, especially if that data is rolled up in an annual report that you require of the CLGs. We appreciate it if you want to send us a copy, but that is certainly not a requirement right now. So just be aware that John's actually kind of working on a mothballing process for that, and how we will handle that. But right now we're not expecting you to send us the annual reporting, and we certainly won't be doing a call out to the CLGs as we have in the past. So hopefully that answers that question in one of two ways.
Right. Megan Rideout said, this may be covered sometime tomorrow, but will fiscal year reporting to the NPS regarding CLGs be making a comeback?
Probably not this year. That's kind of that reporting piece I just spoke about. Honestly, until we really have a full-time CLG coordinator, some of these things have had to be put to the side. So I think the more we can do it within your own reporting and ask for that information in different ways, maybe we've discussed going to not every year that we do it, those types of things, but that's definitely part of what we're looking at now is the best way to handle it. And it might not be the way we've done it in the past. So stay tuned for the annual reporting piece.
All right, and that was my bad. She just wrote that you had already covered that, and I didn't hear
That's
it.
fine. I explained it. I made another answer. It's great. Yeah.
All right. Jane Cotton said, will there be a point in the day when all the CLG coordinators go around and share updates from their states? I'm planning out childcare for the day and wanted to make sure I don't miss anything where I'm expected to speak.
So we're going to do that introductions first thing when we come back, which I think is at 1 o'clock. All right. So y'all will have a chance. We'll go around and introduce each other and tell us about yourselves and that good stuff.
Right. Is that at 1 o'clock today or tomorrow?
Today.
Okay.
Okay. Today. I think.
That's
I can't remember anything.
It's the NAPC session.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is tomorrow. Yes, that's tomorrow, I believe. Sorry. It's on the, you'll see CLG coordinator introductions. It's on the agenda, which I can't pull up because I'm sharing my screen.
Yep. So it's, I think that's 3:30 to 4:45 today.
Perfect. I thought it was.
Yeah. Discussion, CLG coordinators, introductions for state CLG coordinators. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. That is at 3 p.m. today. Or 3:30, sorry, 3:30 p.m. today.
We'll get this figured out.
Yeah, we will. All right. Carla asked, some of our CLGs requested an extension on their grants funded by HPF 19, but we haven't heard the status of that request.
So, and I imagine some of that's related to COVID. We can definitely talk about that now. So the way the COVID extensions work is we have to extend your entire grant. So we can't extend just subgrants. Now, the part of your grant you may be extending is your subgrants, but that's kind of up to you to keep up with. And that may be the reason for the extension, and that's fine. But we actually have to keep the entire grant open until you close those subgrants. So you need to request an extension from us for that. I assume it's like 2019 grant usually. I feel like most of those we have processed. I have noticed that some of the extensions that we pushed through, and this was kind of in general, did not release through our financial system. So if you have not seen that end date change and gotten some paperwork from us, usually it's a cover sheet that comes out of our financial system, do let your grant manager know. And we need to push that fairly quickly because otherwise it won't go through before the systems go down, and we'll have to do it after the fact. So that means we wouldn't do it until sometime probably the end of October. So if you have requested an extension of a 2018, 19, or 20 grant due to COVID, definitely make sure that you've gotten the extension, and if not, let your grant manager know. What will happen with that is we will just leave that grant open. So normally you'll get a letter from us when you do your end of year report, and we'll say this grant is closed. What we will instead say is this grant is staying open, and for these reasons, that you need to finish subgrants, that you weren't able to spend all your personnel costs or something like that. And then you will be responsible within, it's now 120 days of the end date, to provide an updated 425 that shows that the funding has been spent, and then update the project activity database as well. Some of you have asked for an entire year. Some of you have asked for another 6 months. Do know that at this point in time, our authority to extend over COVID has expired. So that expired in June, on June 19th. So several of you did request that in time, and we did those extensions. We can still make an administrative decision to extend your grant, and that's what we would be doing. Just make sure you have a good reason for us. As you know, extending the state grants is not something we take lightly because you managing more than 2 grants at a time can become a nightmare. If that's something you see coming, have that conversation with your grant manager. If it's just for some subgrants that are having trouble due to COVID, we will likely grant it. We don't want you to not spend the money, and we understand that this year has been completely chaotic and insane. So we will try to help you with that as much as we can, but we won't have extended it grant by grant. We will have sub-grant by sub-grant. We will have extended it for your whole grant. So just hopefully that will explain it. And when we get into the sub-grant discussion tomorrow, we certainly can talk about that more. And y'all also have a breakout session on COVID that's happening today, and so we can, or tomorrow, and we can talk about that then too. So continue to ask those questions so that we can answer them while we're here.
Right. There's only one other question, and I can take this. I think, Christy, your question was already answered in the Q&A, but just for everybody else, the only sessions thus far that have any kind of link changes are the office hours in the morning from 10 to 11. All the rest of the sessions will be proceeding as normal unless otherwise mentioned. And back over to you, Megan.
Okay. Did anyone else from the Park Service team have anything they want to add at this point? Since we're done early. Usually I can talk a lot, but I guess I can't talk this much. John, did you want to add anything, or Johnny?
No, I think you covered a good amount of information right there. I think if you're okay with it, we could break early and meet back here or in the next link at 1 p.m.
Yeah, I think that works. I give y'all a little bit of your time back, and for those of us on the East Coast, a little bit longer for lunch. So we'll plan to be back at 1, and you will be using the Zoom link that's in the agenda. Is 1 right? Did I say that right? Yes. And then we'll be joined by the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, and they're going to talk to us some about the different activities they have going on with camp, especially how it's being done virtually. And we're also going to give you a demonstration, is the right word, of the CR Surveyor app, which now has a completed architecture and disaster module, as well as we are almost finished with our Spanish translation module. So we want to update you on that as well. And then we'll go from there throughout the day. Last chance for any questions this morning. We'll give you a minute to type. Okay, it looks like none. So I will let you be free, and we will see you back for the afternoon. Well, afternoon for us, still morning in the West Coast and mountain region. So we'll see you back then. And hopefully technology will be our friend. All right, thank you.